Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hotline League episode 182. Mark Zimmerman is back. We took last week off. I did a State of the League episode because, it's been about 9 years since I did one of those, so I figured it was time to do another one. I update State of the League as often as I update my book channel on YouTube. I want to give a shout-out to GameFuel and Alienware for sponsoring the show. But first, let me introduce my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I went on
A giant
vacation, and I'm a wizard now. This is oak. I think it's like 13 inches. This is the wand I got.
Pretty long. You could get
one
that
of
in
the short
LA.
ones. You can indeed, but they have Hogsmeade, Diagon Alley there. It was cool. I have fun.
So Mark went to Orlando, Florida. Yes. Was that your Voldemort impression?
Yeah, he says it really weird, and he holds it all funny. It's like,
yes.
he's got like the pen holder grip.
Yeah.
From ping pong.
Yeah. Well, he's got some arthritis. He's an older dude. All right, Mark, you went to Orlando, Florida. Yes.
I did.
How long were you there for?
Like a week.
Like a week.
I booked the vacation like a long time ago when COVID was on the low, and then the Delta variant hit, and I was like, well, I don't know if I can flush $5,000 down the toilet, so.
So YOLO. I mean, you're both vaccinated.
We're vaccinated, yeah.
Yeah.
And we took a test when we got back too. We're good.
Nice. Okay. In the clear.
Yeah. So the swamp didn't get us. The swamp people. They're an interesting group.
I don't know. I don't know how many of these people are in our demo, so I don't know if we should. If you want to make
any swamp people in Twitch chat.
I don't want to offend anyone, but it just sounds like you had an interesting time in Florida.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. There were highs and lows because it's just like we were in parks every day, so just like your legs start dying, your feet.
Oh
dying.
yeah. How did that go? Because I feel like after day whenever day 3 rolls around, your feet just start to hurt a ton, wandering around all day.
Yeah. It was tough. First day we hit it hard and it was great. Second day, struggle bus.
Well, the nice thing about having so many days, because how many days did you have just for the parks themselves?
We had 4 days. We were there for 4 days, and we did the parks every day. One day was like Universal, and the other 3 were Disney parks, because there's 4 parks.
Yeah, I mean, if you're there for so long, hopefully it doesn't create as much urgency on like you got to go do everything.
There wasn't a ton of urgency, but we were still trying to get as much in as we can without like literally dying.
Yeah. Well, anyway, welcome back. I'm glad you had a good time. Do you feel refreshed?
No, because like it's hard to feel refreshed when your feet are falling off.
Do you feel mentally and emotionally refreshed? Because I've got a trip going to Hawaii in September, and I need to feel mentally and emotionally refreshed when I come back.
Yeah, but Hawaii is a totally different vibe.
Yeah.
First off, you're not in a swamp.
Yeah, no swamp people.
Well, that and no physical swamp either. It's a deadly combo of the swamp and the swamp people.
Gotcha.
But we've both been to Hawaii before, and it's a totally different vibe.
Yeah, Wild, who is in the chat, she helps us with the podcast of this and getting it up on YouTube and all that stuff. She lives in Florida. She lives in Tampa, and so she's got a lot of opinions on your impressions of everything right now.
Let us know.
Yeah. She says she rides a swamp.
Email.
A gator to work. She rides a gator to work every day in the swamp. Okay.
It was. Yeah. I started picking up an accent. I pick up things very quickly.
Really? Is there an accent in Florida?
I mean, it's southern. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I don't think of Florida people as. I mean, I know they are obviously.
You think
southern,
of Miami. You think of Florida as Miami. That is not what Florida
I've spent more time in Tallahassee, Florida, than I have in Miami. Excuse you. I've been there twice. MSI. Or was it All-Stars? I forget if it was All-Stars or MSI whenever it was.
An All-Stars one that was hella randomly in Tallahassee, and everyone's like, why are we here?
Yes. I remember that. I wonder how many people are going to feel that way about Newark. I've had a couple people. You and I have not had a chance to talk, but I will let you know that I am. We are progressing, and hopefully going to have a live hotline league. So there are movement being made in that direction, but one of the biggest issues I think is just trying to find like a venue and all that stuff. So that's what we're working on right now. But we're hopeful. Hopefully we can find some partners to help make that happen. And I guess I'll put that out here so that people can stay tuned on whether or not we're going to be able to make that go down or not. Anyway, Mark, I don't feel like you missed much during the past week because it's been kind of. You know what it is? I was thinking about this earlier. There's so much drama lately in the LCS over the course of this split that now that we're at the end, there's just games happening and people winning and losing. And so it's just the weeks feel somewhat uneventful because there's no like, oh my gosh, this player got benched crazy and this coach is out or this thing has happened or whatever. It's been if the weeks are playing out the way they should, and yet it feels quiet because of that. So I don't know.
I mean, the most drama isn't really even drama. It's just like Alfari and Speaka bantering, right? Trying to ratio each other.
There's the Azale stuff where he was complaining yesterday about negativity in the way that people talk about pro play, which I'm sure some people will call in about that. A lot of people are very upset about all the skin stuff and the lore stuff. I've kind of like
that is the drama. I don't know what's happening at all in the lore, but I've been reading all those threads because I just enjoy reading people complain and other people tell them they're wrong for complaining.
My thing on the league, so I know this is not esports, so we won't sit on it for too long, but my thing on the League of Legends lore is I just kind of checked out after they did like their 300th revision of what the lore is. And so it's just, I kind of feel like it's tough to really get attached to it because it feels like, so over the course of my like decade of covering the stuff, they've changed the stories and everything so many times that like I get fatigued trying to pay attention to it. I'm normally the guy, I mean, people will know this from listening to Mark and I talk about books, where I really dive in and I love to learn about backstories and how everything is connected and all that stuff. But with like league stuff, it's been
well, it's just because it feels like you're punished for your investment instead of rewarded. It gets retconned. Like even this event, it's like Diana is in. I forget what it was. I was reading one of the threads. Like Diana's supposed to be over here, but then they're like, for this event we need her over here, so she's over here now. And there's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. It's just it's tough.
I'm just gonna wait for the MMO to come out, and then maybe I'll get into the lore.
Well, I'm curious if the Netflix show will be good.
It doesn't feel very lore. I think it's more character focused than lore focused, though.
I mean, either way, I'm fine. Like, I'd like to care more about League of Legends IP. Obviously, like I like fantasy settings. I like big worlds and big universes filled with lots of characters. I really like, the MCU, and I like all the Cosmere stuff that Mark and I talk a lot about with the Brandon Sanderson stuff, and the league. So I need an excuse. I want some reason, and I just feel like it's tough. They don't give too many reasons to want to care about this stuff. So anyway, whatever.
I saw some people in chat. I saw some people in chat being like, "Talk about my first cast." I don't know if I want to.
Oh yeah, because that was 2 weeks ago, and we didn't get a chance to do it last week. Yeah, so we can talk about that for sure, and maybe what it is that's made you decide you want to do casting, or what led you to this point, and then also, Brian Kibler says they should just make a Volibear show. He just wants his dog to be in it. Also, we can talk about all the COVID stuff that sent everybody scuttling home over the weekend. Besides the broadcast,
anything hot to say about that though? Do you have like a take about it?
Well, I think it's interesting that we now have 90. The Players Association came out and said 95% of the players are vaccinated. That's interesting. It's up there, I think, in the highest echelon of North American sports for vaccination rates. Probably a lot easier to get 100 people vaccinated than like, I don't know, however many people play in the NBA. But it's still impressive, I think. I'm happy to see that. Because if you had told me previously that there were like 70% vaccination rates among pro players, I would believe you, because pro players are not always the most well-informed or the best at making good life decisions. So I was happy to see that. I know there's some people that want to talk about viewership, which I am okay to talk about. I don't know if Mark's going to pull any of those takes, but I do think viewership is... I mean, we had games, I think, this weekend where, like, the main Twitch, the LCS Twitch stream was at, like, 40K. And, like, people kind of obfuscate the stuff by saying, oh, you know, there's also, like, co-streams, and there's also the YouTube stuff. But I'm like, yeah, even when you add that all up, we are pretty far down for a while. So if people want to talk about that, I'd love to hear about that as well. But I think overall, especially since we don't have a guest this week, kind of an open mic night. Lots of people can call in with different takes. We can take things that are a little unusual. I mean, it feels weird because we've got week 9 hitting. This is like the final do or die weekend, so I'm sure we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about with that. But like, it's weird in that it doesn't... Maybe because 8 teams make it in, and so the only drama is really around like who out of FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, and CLG are going to make it. But
I feel
it does feel a little
at least
slow.
like there's some predictions to make about the end of the year. You know, like which of those 3 teams is going to make it in? Is 100 Thieves going to hold on to first? You know, is EG the best team in the league?
Yeah.
I feel like there's quite a few gameplay related things to talk
well,
about.
An MVP maybe too, because this is the last. After this, Mark and I start voting, and so it becomes a lot harder for us to talk about it because they don't ever want us to vote to explain who it is that we picked for MVP because they don't want that stuff getting spoiled. And so I'm sure we can talk some about the MVP stuff this weekend too. So yeah. So there you go. I had an interview with Closer about it today. Mark,
About who you should vote for?
No, just about if he thinks he should get MVP.
Did he say yes?
He said no, but he's frustrated because he sees a lot of discussion online where it's like, he said, you go look at, a lot of people are saying, well, Closer, it's so easy for him because he just has all these winning lanes, so of course he's going to look good. And his argument is, if you look at the people who win MVP normally in the LCS, they're like junglers who have a bunch of strong winning lanes. So
funnily enough, we were talking about this on the analyst desk, and I said, this is my own fault too, because I have bought in, but like I think we overhyped junglers in NA for that reason. Because it is true that if you are playing on a team that naturally is winning lanes, like as a jungler, that is so liberating because you don't need to cover people who are naturally losing their lane. You don't need to worry about dives. You have priority to go for invades, to control objectives. Like your job is so much easier when you have naturally winning lanes. And like I think in the past, because Sven and Blabber and like Closer being probably one of the favorites right now, even Spica a little bit as one of the ones that people are saying about. Like I feel like junglers in general get a lot of attention on top teams. Now that said, I do think Closer is the best jungler in the league this split, and like might be on my ballot. But I feel like it's something where like I need to like do some self-reflection. Be like, man, have I overrated them? Compared to like it's like mid and jungle win every time, pretty much, aside for the times that it's someone else, where it's like core JJ, I guess.
Yeah. God, I can just see how much cat hair is on your shirt now that the cat has left.
What do you mean? My face is up here.
Yeah, I know it's an interesting situation for sure. I mean, because it actually harkens back to, I remember when Niski did not get MVP, but Sven and Blabber did, I think, in a summer and then a spring split, and everybody was kind of talking about like, hey, is there a world where like actually Niski deserves it because he's enabling both these junglers to be able to have the success that they're having? So it just kind of reminds me a little bit about that. I think it's a fair thing for me to consider and for maybe more people to consider as we're looking at the MVP stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
Are you? I know, Mark, you already pulled one person. Do you need any? Sometimes I think we need to encourage our callers a little bit more on their takes. So I don't know if there's anything. Obviously, we've talked about some of the stuff we'd love to hear, but if you have any pro tips, Mark, for people.
No, I just got distracted. I think there's more good topics in here, but I'll do a second call if I need. But otherwise, I think I'll just plug it as usual. If you want to get on the show and you have a topic or an opinion on anything we might have talked about before, go ahead and join this Discord channel. When you get there, go ahead and join one of the Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls to voice or channels. Yeah, voice channels. And then the Pleb Topics text channel up above. That's where you're going to write in what it is you want to talk about. you need to be in one of those voice channels in order for me to pull you into the waiting room, where that's where you'll hang out. If I pick your take, you'll sit there until it's your turn. Then we'll do a quick audio check, make sure things sound good, and then we'll pull you onto the air to talk.
Very good. And if you are a sub, thank you for being a sub. Please, we always appreciate your subs, even if you're listening to this on Spotify or on YouTube or wherever else, even coming in. It's nice. There's been a pretty noticeable drop-off in viewership, I think, across the board for League content. And so I'm seeing that reflected, I think, in some of my subs on Twitch and viewership on YouTube and all that stuff. So just everyone who does, stay invested in this and does enjoy the content, all that stuff is really appreciated, especially when you can use like a Prime sub and get it for free. So thank you so much to everyone who supports the show. Mark, while maybe I'll distract you from pulling folks for a second by asking you what's with the casting. Actually, what's very funny was how uneventful it was, the way that you made it, where I think, if this was LEC, for instance, there'd be a big old thing ahead of time announcing that this was happening, and you'd be talking about how grateful you are and how excited it is, and like there'd be a ton of fanfare. But you just were suddenly like, you posted that picture and you're like, haha, I'm casting in a second. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what led you to depart the analyst desk exclusively and pick up the casting mic.
I've always done a little bit of casting on the side for things. I did collegiate and academy for a couple of years in like 2016 to 2018-ish. Did some TFT when that came out. And then I didn't do too much casting for a little bit, but I wanted to get back into it. Just being totally honest, it's like there's less space for analyst desk historically around international events or anything at all, really, especially with some of the changes with like Countdown going away and stuff like that. And those were things that I really enjoyed. But like realistically, I think I enjoy casting. And when I started, it was Jat, Kobe, Azael, Zyrene as like the big four. And I would have been fifth on that like list. And I was like, well, I'll just be the analyst desk guy because I do enjoy that work a lot too.
Yeah.
But it's just like, if you just do analyst desk, you're just kneecapping yourself realistically at Worlds and international performances. And I don't want to do that. So I decided to get back into casting. That's kind of the main motivator.
How's it been?
It was good. I got pretty positive feedback, all things considered, in like the post-game thread and stuff like that, which felt good. But I also like take it with a grain of salt because I feel like it's just new, and new is usually cool. I know a lot of new casters get flame on their stuff because they also are trying to build their brand. Like usually as a caster, your first initial performance is, hey, I'm a caster. Whereas for me, like most of the audience already knows who I am. So It was a little less like
there's trust
jarring
there already.
Yeah. So I don't know. It went well. People seem to like it. That was cool. I'll be doing more. It's not really an announcement. I think I'm casting on Saturday again.
Everyone, you heard it here on Hotline League first. Mark Zimmerman returns to casting after a 2-week hiatus this Saturday at the end.
I think I'm actually the first 3 games.
He's actually the first 3 games. Be sure to tune in. You want to catch him. Turn off those co-streams. You want to hear Mark's voice.
Yeah.
It is actually a really interesting thing because we've talked a little bit about, when people talk about the viewership, they go, yeah, but there's co-streams. But I think it is interesting in that the analyst desk and the casters
don't turn off the fucking co-streams.
Never mind.
Open both up.
Oh yeah, open both up and just have Mark's voice and Dom's voice go just next
left ear and right ear.
Yeah, exactly. Change your stereo stuff. I was gonna say though, one thing that is interesting is there's less like the casters and the analyst desk, I think, just have less exposure than they've ever had before, because I think viewership is down a little bit, but also a lot of people tuning into co-streams. So it is like an interesting time, I feel like, for the broadcast. I wonder if there's like other if I was on the broadcast, I wonder if it wouldn't be a good idea to try to find other content opportunities with Riot, like how Kaizen has found sort of a co-hosting position with Medios, etc. Something to think about, Mark. I'm trying to help you out.
Yeah, like the dive.
Yeah,
would be a good option.
Yeah, you could do the dive. I tuned in last week and you weren't on it, so I just assumed that you're not normally on that show. So if I see you tomorrow on it, I will realize that my advice to you has been very helpful and that you've figured it out.
Your advice for me to do the dive an hour after I film the dive is really helpful.
Yes. Well, I'm here to help. All right. Anyway, I think that covers your decision to opt into casting. But anyway, it's cool to see you picking up that baton, and I know they always need more color casters, so I think it's cool that you've been able to help them. Kobe needs more days off. That's my take. I'm
gonna take Kobe's whole job. So I'm just creeping up on the dive.
Wow.
I'll be like, yeah, take some time off, Kobe. Just take a little bit of time off.
Maybe forever off.
Maybe stay away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, should I grab a caller?
Yeah. Mark is off to grab our first caller. Thank you to Red Rain, Final Fantasy 14 for the 15 months. Red Rain, your Final Fantasy 14 stuff has been popping off. Congratulations. Sally Czar for the 21. Kasano 2001 for 7 months. Chip Wheel for the 11. Gyoto for half a year. Thank you, Gyoto. As long as you've been in the LCS, I assume. And Bankshot for the 10 months. Gyoto's here because he wants to hear us all talk about how great Immortals is. A Korean guy
disappeared when they were 3-7. He shows up now that they've got a 3-0.
Yes, exactly. A Korean guy is here. A Korean guy, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston, Massachusetts. That's Mark's stomping grounds. This is one of your people, Mark. A Korean guy. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my overall take is that I think the big streamers and content creators, for the most part, driving this NA bad upvotes to the left narrative as the main basis of analysis or content discussion is a big reason why LCS viewership is down.
Gotcha. So you think it's like fed by a lot of negativity on people dogging on the LCS?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it, and this is just from my perspective, but since so much of LCS coverage, whether it's streams, videos, podcasts, Reddit, Twitter, is all about how bad LCS is, people don't want to watch because the majority of discussions is always about how bad the league is or how NA has no hope, or in any game it's always talk about how X team messed up or blah, 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 blah. At some point, all this negativity makes people just go, why bother, and stop watching. And on top of that, I think this feeds into this constant flaming, and the flame problem is already bad enough in the league, and it just encourages more flaming, more negativity, where people say the hottest take or say something just to ego on other people, and just for Twitter clout, essentially. And this is coming from someone who watches, all sorts of things, whether it's Face Check or the dive or anything and everything. And at some point, all this negativity just wears on you. As for me, who's been following or playing League since basically season 1 or 2.
So for you, it feels bad just because there is a ton of negativity.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And it's like, I don't blame people if at some point for just checking out, because at some point you're just like, why bother? I can't even enjoy the game anymore, because any discussion or content about it is all about how NA's bad, NA bad, upvotes to the left, and it's just like, all right, we get it. At some point, it's like, can we have analysis that doesn't involve like essentially egoing on people just to sound smart? It's like, come on, guys, it's a game.
I'm kind of curious. So one, I wanted to point out, I had it up on the screen a second ago, but I have sort of the chart that shows the I'll throw it back up, the reasons why people stop watching. Are you okay, Mark?
I'm looking at the chart.
Okay. The reasons why people are watching less, and we did not stick, and I wish I had, because we did the survey back in March. The sort of negativity, maybe it was later, maybe it was April. The negativity, or I feel turned off by negativity. So it's not on here, but we do have NA teams never make it far at MSI at Worlds, and that's ranked pretty low compared to people who say that they just feel like there's not enough interesting storylines or enough likable or interesting players. So I think I here's what I will say though, or I'll ask you: do you feel this negativity or this kind of people being down on North America and League Esports and all that stuff? Do you think that exists in Riot's content, like the LCS broadcast and in the LCS third-party content?
I think Riot's content certainly makes a concerted effort, in my opinion, on trying to avoid this negativity, which, depending on who you are, you might like it or you might not. But I think and I want to touch on one of the points you brought up about the kind of the reasons why people stop watching, and the fact that the negativity point is on the lower end of things.
Well, I didn't say, sorry, we didn't ask that question, but the performance at international events is on the lower end of things.
Yeah, that, sorry. But yeah, I think the reason for that, at least in my opinion, is that at this point, I feel like viewers have more or less become conditioned to, all right, NA, we can get hyped for NA, but they're probably not going to make it far, so if we don't have international competition to kind of hang our hat on, then at least and then the next thing is what, content narratives. But now that content narrative side of things is starting to slow down a bit. There's already complaints about how the personalities and narratives is a bit lacking. What do we do about that? I think there's just less and less reasons to follow LCS, and I think it's just a compounding thing. That I think the negativity point that I was raising earlier, I think is part of it, because if all this negativity talk kind of ruins the narrative and content side of things, then kind of what else is there left?
So here's one place I will agree with you on. Peter is a great friend of mine, and I appreciate that he came on the show last week. I really like listening to the Sneaky Medios and Peter co-streams. But there's times where I feel like Peter will specifically, I think, suggest that a player should not be in the LCS or something along those lines. So he will critique a player not just for saying like, oh, that's such a bad mistake, but also suggest that the player should not be competing. And I do agree that stuff is really tough, because it becomes complicated, I think, then to get people to root for any of these players or care about them. And I think that's not something that you would normally see on, like, if we're comparing co-streaming or watch parties, whatever they're called now, to the official broadcast. One thing I think that is good about the official broadcast is that it refrains from ever taking it so far to say, like, why is this person in the LCS, or this person needs to just, like, leave or whatever. They're not good enough or something. Yeah,
they need to go crawl into a hole. I feel like the negativity thing, I'd be curious if that kind of folds into some of the other options there. Like, oh, lack of good storylines could mean like, well, the storylines that were bad. Like, if people do feel this way, I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of fit into one of those, where it's not like, oh, it's not that not going far at Worlds has made us not interesting to watch, but because we're not, like, I'm wondering if people kind of trick themselves into putting it for someone else, or maybe it's less of a deterrent as we really think it is. Because, I think a lot of people have that sentiment. I assume that, the caller saw the Azael tweet and the Reddit thread, and it seemed to be fairly agreed upon. Some people said it's maybe not as bad, or there's some talk back about, like, how do you analyze things and stuff. But, like, regardless, I overall agree that I feel like there is a lot of focus on what's wrong or right in a play, wrong over right in a play. So I don't know. I could believe it, but I doubt it's actually one of the bigger factors compared to the other things that we've talked about.
Yeah, I'm with Mark on this. I think it's not great. I don't think it's great. And I do wish that there was more positivity around. Like, I think sometimes, I'm not going to say all co-streams do this stuff, but some co-streams do not give enough leeway to these teams that are development teams. So, for instance, like, I am not surprised that Peter thinks, oh, X player should not be competing in the LCS, because Peter's got the attitude of somebody who was like always on these top teams, going and winning splits and whatever, and he's looking at it as like, why is this person here? Whereas I tend to think of things as like, not all 10 teams can try to be, I mean, financially at least right now, championship teams. And so having these players come in there that, yes, are going to fuck up and make major mistakes and all that stuff, like, I'd much rather have us investing in some of this newer talent than just sort of bringing back like the folks that have been around for a while but haven't necessarily found success. That being said, I still think there needs to be better roster stability, and I do think we need to like limit the churn, but I am okay having players that like are bad in the LCS as long as they A, eventually get better, or B, you know, I don't know, even if they just have great personalities or something, I think that would be great. I don't expect all 50 to be amazing.
Yeah.
So
pretty down with Immortals, Golden Guardians, and FlyQuest rosters, both iterations of FlyQuest rosters, honestly.
Yeah, and you know what? CLG gets a lot of hate, obviously, but I know that Finn has been targeted a lot, and like we had him on the show recently, but I'm like, I don't mind, like, Finn, I don't think is necessarily a bad pickup or a bad attempt by an LCS team, and I feel like he's had times. I don't know, Mark, if you have opinions on this, but
I go too hard on CLG, but I think if you go back and check the tapes for most analysts when the CLG roster was put together, a lot of us were saying, like, what is the point? Because you did not secure more star power than these other teams. You got a bunch of people who were second fiddle on their Worlds qualifying teams. Everyone's like, wow, 3 of their 5 players made Worlds last year. It's like, yeah, but how many of them were the reason they made Worlds?
yeah.
And it's pretty low for them.
I
So, like,
I agree.
I don't want to go hard on CLG. I'm just saying, like, their roster was pretty poorly conceived from the get-go. I think it turned out worse than it had any right to be. I don't think that they would ever be 10th place, even though I thought they weren't going to make Worlds, and I thought the roster didn't make sense to me. I don't think I would have predicted 10th place.
Yeah, sorry, I was speaking just specifically of Finn, which I know you mean like Finn is part of the roster, but I just mean like if somebody had brought Finn over and stuck him on a different roster, I don't know. I'm less critical, I think, of him as a player than others are, but maybe I should be.
No, I'm just saying that, like, he wasn't the reason Rogue made Worlds. He is a fine player. I just think when you're importing players, you're looking for superstars generally, and Finn is good. He's clearly good, but, like, you know, it's in terms of the CLG roster construction. I said this then too. Finn got a lot of hate for what is a ultimately flawed CLG approach. And I would still say that's true. Like, I think Finn's a fine player.
Anyway, here's my final take on this. I agree with you, akoreanguy, that it does not help the LCS how negative everybody is on it, and it might hinder us a little bit. I disagree that it is like the biggest issue, and I think one thing I didn't really get a chance to, but part of the reason I was asking you about the LCS broadcast is, like, if you don't like the negativity, I think there is a decent amount of content that you can go to avoid it, right? Like, I think the LCS broadcast is far less negative about stuff than a lot of the watch streams are. I think, you know, people can argue about whether or not that should be the case, but there's third-party content that, not third-party, the shoulder content that LCS makes, like the dive and all that stuff, is going to be less negative. I try, you know, we get kind of negative on the Hotline League, but even I think here it's a little less. I don't think any of us are surprised when LCS doesn't perform great, and that's why I don't think we spend so much time harping on LCS's failures. Anyway, thank you, akoreanguy, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
No, I mean, thanks for having me on, and you know, you guys do a great thing over here, so keep it up.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, Mark is off to grab the next caller. Let's see. We got Bank Shot for 10 months, Dak Jamkin for 19, Matt 7389, Horny Jail for Kaisa. Always great to have you back subbing. Thank you for the 9 months. Hope jail's going okay. Butter Michael, 32 months. Dominic, thank you for the 5. Appreciate it. Max Drixton is here. Max, you've subbed before, and I think been on the show, yes?
This is my first time calling.
This is your first time. Okay, you've just been around for so long that I recognize the name. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about how, at first, I was pretty critical of the 18 playoff format, but seeing the way that things have turned out this split, it's kind of changed my mind. I'm a fan of the format, at least the way it's worked out up to this point.
And sorry, I forgot to ask, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, okay. So you think the 8-team format is good. There's, I think, a subreddit thread today where some people were pretty critical of, like, you play for each of these teams plays like 45 games, and then 80% of
it was back and forth. Some people liked it, some people didn't.
The thread, sorry, the title was like critical, but the conversation in it was interesting. I learned in there that something like, what is it, 20 out of 30 NBA teams make it to playoffs now, is what I read. And I guess there's been a trend to including more teams in playoffs for at least American sports, traditional sports. So I thought that was really interesting. But
16, I guess they bumped up to 20, or I think they do like a 9th, 10th play-in or something. I don't remember. I don't keep up with that NBA anymore. But yeah.
Why are you okay with it being 8? And I guess why were you skeptical, and why did you change your mind now?
So the reason I was skeptical at first was just because with 8 teams, it seems like things are going to be really low stakes. Most teams aren't going to have a lot to play for. But looking at the way things have worked out this split, right? We're going into the last week. We have 3 games left, and the top 5 teams are all playing for a playoff bye, playoff bye. Dig and IMT are both playing to avoid starting in the losers bracket, and the bottom 3 teams are all playing for a playoff spot. So with only 3 games left to play, everyone has something to fight for right now. Like, most of the games this weekend are going to matter, and normally by this point in the split, like 4 teams usually would not have anything that really matters going on.
So I appreciate that. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
No, I was going to say, I mean, it's a good point. If you have a 16 playoff format, right now, Golden Guardians, basically everyone's fucked, and it's just between Immortals and Dig, right? You cut out a number of the stories. Now it's Immortals and Dig fighting for the upper bracket, and TSM, TSM, 100 Thieves, Cloud9, and EG fighting for buys. And so like there is more going on. I can somewhat understand the fan sentiment about 45 games to do this. I don't know if the caller has felt like the 45 games is justified in their minds or problematic. Because I think there's 2 parts, right? There's like the 8-team format for playoffs, and there's also the actual regular season format.
Yeah. What do you think of the regular season format, Max?
I think I liked it more when spring didn't matter. I think it's okay for games that happened that long ago to not impact playoffs happening right now.
So go ahead, Mark.
No, I was going to say I kind of agree with him about that. Having gone through, I wouldn't have known before this split how I felt about it, but like combining the 2 has felt a little weird. And I know there's not that much fluctuation between like what would happen if you swap the games of total versus summer and rearrange the standings. Like EG becomes tied with TSM, and Cloud9 and TL are still in the top 5. Like there is some movement around, but it's not a ton. But I still kind of feel that way, that I wish it, like, I don't know if this is the exact format that I feel good about. And to Kilhodo's point, Immortals would go up the standings a lot. Actually, they'd be tied with C9 and TL. So
a couple different things here. So to the original point, which you made, like, oh, there's a ton of interesting stuff happening. Max, Mark, you agree? I think Riot got really lucky with this, because think about every other year. It's been like, oh, you've got like Cloud9 up at the top, and then like TSM and TL like right behind them by a couple of games. And like usually you can just swap with those teams, and TL's at the top and TSM and C9 are behind them a little bit. Maybe one of those teams is like struggling a little bit, and then normally the bottom teams don't matter because they're so far gone, and like it's a big deal if you drop. Like, think about how different this split is. I know a lot of people have been kind of talking about this, but like there are 5 teams up at the top where like they're possibly like they're competitive to go to Worlds. And now, after this weekend, I feel like there's some IMT hype too. So maybe I think it's a pretty hot take, IMT making it to Worlds, but like who knows? And then like a surging FlyQuest Academy and Golden Guardians, and obviously they both had bad weekends, but like the last couple of weeks have been really interesting for them. I just think this is a very, very, very lucky time for them to have this 8-team playoff format, because I don't think shit like this ever happens. And I feel like normally you would be looking at this and you'd be like, really, we're going to have 8 teams go here? Like, it's just a matter of like, there's 3 teams and probably one of them will get upset and won't make it to Worlds type thing, because of some random team. So I think it's really lucky. I think on normal years this is not going to be as great.
Yeah, I was saying something to Dive today, but like week 6, 7, 8 is usually pretty shit, but because of the FlyQuest Golden Guardians roster swap and resurgence, it made it pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think that aside, like you still are going to have now best of 5s with the 7th and 8th place teams that might not be that entertaining. I don't know how much that matters, in the grand scheme of things. And you still have a ton of games played in the regular season. And someone in chat said this, and I told you, we talked about this, I think off air, just like the start of summer seemed to lack some of that, like, oh my God, how good are these teams? Where like Immortals started super hot in summer. I think they were like 4-2 or 6-2 or something like that, but they were like 5th or 6th place. And it feels like some of that craziness that you get at the start of a split was just gone because everyone already had these rankings. And so like the 8-team playoff format to me is something I would be down for, even in those situations you're talking about where there's like a clear-cut number 1 team and the 2 worst teams are just trash. Like let's say CLG stayed how they were and Golden Guardians didn't get this like resurgence,
Yeah.
And you weren't excited about them. Like it would still be boring, I guess, but like that, I don't think 6 is any more interesting in that conversation either if there's only 6 teams in playoffs. So
yeah.
I think there's more of a conversation to actually be had about the regular season changes with the carryover than the playoff at 8.
Yeah, I guess it's fair to say they got lucky, but maybe even if they didn't get lucky, it's okay. My take is, so I care less about the spring to summer rollover, though it's kind of annoying to me sometimes because I feel like I have to go look up the standings for summer in order to get an accurate gauge of like how teams actually seem like they're performing. You know what I mean? Like it's weird because you get such a skewed representation where like C9, when you just look at the standings, you'll be like, oh, they're actually like quite good right now. And then you go and you look and they're like, actually they've got equal wins and losses. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like so I think that's kind of annoying to me. And so I'm still not as decided there. What I will say is I'm done with the Friday game stuff. Like, send this shit back to Saturday, Sunday, 5 games a day.
You think
and
just burnt out? There's just too many?
I think I suspect. Okay, so I want to caveat this by saying I don't have any data around this. And I know this, we as a group, a community, an industry, whatever, we all make these big statements like, oh, the reason why people are watching LCS less is because we don't go to Worlds, and or we don't do well at Worlds, and it's like, okay, well, can you show me any kind of information that shows that? Or like we all make these big. I'm about to do that, but at least I will acknowledge that this is just me saying what I think. I think it's actually just kind of fatiguing, it's too much league content right now, and I actually think that's part of the reason why viewership is taking a hit, because it's just like there's too much. It's content saturation, because not only do we ask people to watch a lot of games on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but we also ask them to watch The Dive and Hotline League and this or that and Face Check and all these different things. Obviously, they don't have to watch all of it, but it's just like, if in a world where this was the only league that was happening, I think it makes sense to have this much LCS. But like, you're competing against people that want to watch LEC and LCK and LPL as well, and all this shoulder content, all this stuff. I honestly think it's too much. And I guess maybe the argument is like, well, then, maybe people don't need to watch the last game of the day or something like that. But I don't know. I just think it's way too much. And I think if you're going to have 8 games, I think that it works well. If you want to keep 8 teams going, I think having less games and making every game count a lot more is good. Now, I don't know what coaches and people would say. Like, I know we've got Peter Dunn in the chat, maybe, and Gyoto, maybe some
they
other
don't
people.
like Friday.
What's that?
Generally, teams don't like Friday because they lose a practice day.
Yeah, and I think in the past, some people actually wanted there to be more games because they felt like it would be more practice for Worlds and that type of stuff. But like, I don't know, man. I'm just kind of like, I am fatigued watching it. Like, here's my mea culpa. I don't always watch the Friday games, and I take that day sometimes to try to do other stuff work related, and I'll have it up on a second screen or something like that. But it's not like I cannot always. Like, it just feels like it's too much, even for me who covers this stuff, you know? Like, I don't know if I want... It probably ends up being like 17 or 18 hours of broadcast. I don't know. I'd have to see, but it obviously depends on if you're watching like the shows beforehand and all that stuff. But it's like a part-time job just to watch everything. And
Sending us down the rabbit hole of best of 3 versus best of 1 conversation. I'm sick of having. No, that's all Twitch is talking about right now. You're not intending to, but that's the rabbit hole you're leading us down.
Ignore Twitch chat talking about best of 2s and best of 3s like it is a
literally
non-starter.
Just spamming best of 2, best of 3, everything.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say: no one agreed with you when you said this in Twitch chat. Most people said they liked the games.
Really?
So you're wrong, and let's move on.
I'm gonna do a poll.
Do a poll. I love polls.
Phil, while I'm typing this out.
So I mean, like, I would believe it. Like you said, like, I'll believe whatever the data tells me. I don't really have super strong opinions on this kind of stuff. I enjoy having 3 days personally.
Poll is up, everybody.
Wait, it just says Friday games, yes, which means we like them?
Yes, like you want Friday games.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't Friday games bad, and then someone saying, yes, Friday games are bad.
I guess I should have done like 3 days a week or something like that.
I think either way, this is working.
72 to 16%, so I guess I'm just screwed.
Yeah, wrong. Anyways, I agree with the caller. I like the playoffs.
Why do people like 3... Okay, caller. Max, are you here?
Yeah.
Do you like the 3-day-a-week thing with LCS?
I do. The reason I like 3 days is I only watch LCS. I don't watch LEC or any of those other regions. And I just like having a few more games.
Yeah. So it's just you just want more games, and so this gives you them.
Travis is burnt out on League of Legends, so he doesn't like the days. But all the joyous people who love League of Legendos is happy for the extra day.
No, I mean, I like it. I feel like we're losing viewership because other people are burnt out on League of Legends. It's just tough. And it's been more interesting. Like, I have enjoyed the league more in the past couple of weeks because you've seen some really interesting historical, I would say, things happening with teams like 100T, EG, FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, etc. But like, I don't know. I feel like it's a fuck ton of League of Legends for LCS now, and I think that's part of the reason why this stuff is hurting. But 70% of people say in my chat, which is obviously not a representative sample, because these people are pretty hardcore. They say they like it. So I guess I'm a fool. I'm a fool.
Silly goose.
Max, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
Yeah. First, thanks for having me. And also a shout out to MarkZ. They're a UK-based charity that benefits trans youth. So consider donating if you can afford to and if they align with your personal values.
Thank you, Max. Have a good one.
Yep, you too.
All right. It is time for a quick break to talk about Alienware.
Let's go
to alienware.com/Travis, and you can take a look at all the cool stuff we got going on over there. Actually, one thing you guys can all do that is very, very helpful for me, because a lot of people I know, maybe you're not in the market for an Alienware computer. Maybe you just don't need a computer right now. Maybe you don't need a notebook. Maybe you don't need, they make great monitors and accessories, and so maybe you could do that. But let's say you just are like, I'm set on computer stuff for right now, Travis. Do me a favor. Click the link, alienware.com/Travis. Up at the very, very top, right in the middle, you're going to see something that says Alienware Arena. Click through to that. Sign up for Alienware Arena and take a look at some of their giveaways. They have a bunch of stuff that is cool that they do here, and you don't need to be in the market for a Alienware computer in order to take advantage of some of the cool stuff they've got going on here. And it's just really helpful for me because I know that they love to get folks onboarded onto Alienware Arena. You know, it's one of the things that they look at to see, like, oh, you know, maybe Travis, not as many people buying computers during the summer or something like that. But look, a bunch of people joined Alienware Arena, which means they're part of kind of our club. So either way, Alienware.com/Travis. If you're listening to this on YouTube or watching it on YouTube, you can click the link in the description. I will go ahead and stick that in the Twitch chat right now so that people can click over to it. What if we live outside the U.S., says Last Samurai. So you can join Alienware Arena outside the U.S. I believe. I hope I'm not crazy in saying this, but I'm pretty sure that you can join even outside the U.S., and there's benefits for people outside the U.S. too. So that's actually a great way too, if you would like to join and to support their sponsorship of the show. You know, you guys all going over there and signing up. Maybe you haven't been on in a while. Just log in and check it out. See if there's anything new there for you, because maybe you have an account. Maybe you made something as part of a giveaway that I did a long time ago. So either way, thank you to everybody who supports the show by checking out Alienware. It would be really great if you... Yeah. Kill Bossa says, New World fried my 3090. Well, no, I don't believe any Alienware 3090s are getting fried by New World. So you can go rest assured your 3090 will be there. I need to go check it out. Thank you to Alienware for sponsoring the show. All right. On to the next caller. Mark goes off. Thank you to Too Short for You. Annie, thank you for the 10 months. Purple Ray Q for 34. Oh my God, coming up on 36. Purple Ray Q says GameFeel actually resealable cans on one I've actually that actually had hold in the flavor. Yeah, exactly. Signet, thank you for the Prime. Lord Corridor, thank you for the Prime. And Mr. Dr. Enchiladas, thank you for the 3 months. Mark should be getting back here in just a second.
I'm here.
Hello. He is here. Xanadu is here. Xanadu, where are you calling from?
Calling from Woodstock, Illinois, the town where they filmed Groundhog Day.
Nice. What you said, Woodstock, Illinois?
Yep.
Okay, is that also where Woodstock took place?
No.
Okay, you can understand my confusion though.
True.
Okay, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Well, I want to talk about who is going to Worlds this year. It's going to be TSM, EG, and Cloud9.
TSM, EG, and Cloud9. All right, I don't know if this is too hot of a take, but it's... I mean, it's...
No 100 Thieves? I think it's pretty hot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No 100 Thieves.
Do we... I think right now that if I was going to... Like, in predicting who's going to Worlds, I feel like it's pretty easy right now to just stick 100T, EG, C9, TL, and TSM into a... Like, put all their names into a hat and just pull out 3. So that's why I don't think it's, like, that hot of a take.
It's not bad, but I mean, I have legitimate reason to believe 100 Thieves ain't going.
Okay.
I mean, they practically went 0-3 this week. They went 1-2, their win against CLG, who basically threw the game right to them. They basically went 0-3 this week.
Yeah, that's why I mean, they lost to Dig the week before. Like they lost to EG, they lost to Golden Guardians. During the, I guess this is the July 9th weekend, so maybe not the weekend before, but this is why I don't think it's that hot of a take that 100T might not be going to Worlds. I definitely don't think that they're a shoo-in.
No, well, I mean, I guess we agree. Yeah.
So tell me about the other 3 teams. Why do you think those 3 are going?
EG and TSM are pretty consistent right now. They have dropped a few games to some of the lower teams, but I mean, they overall are playing at a pretty high level, and they're pretty solid across the map. Similarly, Cloud9 has been beginning to turn it back up. The big question mark, surprisingly, is Perks right now. I know that's been the conversation all year, but...
Sorry, the biggest question mark is Perks, you're saying?
On Cloud9.
Yeah. Sorry, continue.
No, yeah. And similarly, Team Liquid, I don't think they're going to be able to clinch it just because our Mayo is not it. And the Diffie and the Jiffy, I think, is going to be too big a deal.
I mean, this is why, like, I mean, jokes aside about putting the names in the hat, like, I think those would be, based off of recent performance, I assume that's what most people would be predicting is EG, TSM and Cloud9. Well, I guess even Cloud9 might even be like the shakiest name in that group. You just have to really believe in their like performance this last weekend to feel good about that. But I don't know, Mark. Why would you not pick those three?
I mean, to your point, the top 5 does feel really close. I think we have a call about that later. But I was surprised to see. I mean, one of the things he said was closer as a poser, in his reasoning.
I agree. I'm a Golden Guardians fan. I know you have most of your callers are, but last year when Closer was playing for our team, I'll be honest, he was okay, not actually that impressive. And I see the analyst stats keep hyping up, and I'm just like, I don't really get it. He's okay, but he's not actually like that amazing. Definitely way better than Armeo, but
who do you think is who? How would you rank the top 3 junglers?
3 junglers right now?
Yeah.
I'd probably say. Well, obviously
Spica's
Spica.
one suggestion I can give you. I assume you put it.
Oh yeah, of course Spica.
Okay.
You just flamed Armeo, so your other 3 junglers are Closer, Svenskeren,
Blabber,
and Blabber.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I get like again the question is like, do you not include Closer in those top 3?
You know, he's close, but he doesn't really stand out like Spica or Svenskeren, which I think Svenskeren's been doing solid this year. I mean, nobody that's also why I feel like there's at least a take here. Like, I know EG's record looks good, but people still aren't talking about them.
Svenskeren's not even the best jungler on EG.
I love Peter's Svenskeren, Spica, and contracts for his top 3. All right, he's got the top 2 of the top 3 junglers in the league, locking them down.
All right. Well, anyway, sorry. Back, Mark, to this. Okay, so this man is a Closer hater, which I think he's kind of at odds with most people on that. But Mark, who do you think are the top 3, or who should be the 3 that people are predicting to go to Worlds?
Gun to my head, 100 Thieves, EG, TSM. Right now, I think what I saw out of C9 was better this weekend, and I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident in them stealing one of those spots. TL to me is in their own tier. I actually don't think it's a top 5. I think it's a top 4. To be honest, I don't really believe in TL at all. So that'd be mine. I can see the argument for C9 given what their top end should be. They're just not hitting it right now.
All right. Can I give one more reason why I think 100 Thieves isn't going to make it?
Sure.
Those Reaper drafts, man. Time and time again, we see him be confident about a draft and really hone in on it even after they lose on it. And at least the Reaper drafts, they usually backfire.
Do you agree with that, Mark?
No.
No?
Okay.
Not particularly. I mean, like, I feel like his drafts win him just as many games as he loses. I feel like the whole Reaper bad drafts is like, it happens, sure, but I feel like a lot of times people soft lose drafts, whereas like Reaper's drafts are more like boom or bust, in a sense. Like they'll take a bigger risk, whereas some people are like, yeah, well, I just picked 3 stable lanes that don't actually do anything in the game, and they just slowly lose, and there you go.
Mark, I want to ask you. Okay, so there's been a lot of discussion around in the summer. Okay, you carry over your spring split standings, and then you have all these games because it's three days a week. A lot of teams are supposed to be able to experiment more, try different drafts or whatever. It's okay to like lose some games because you're experimenting. Do you think any teams are doing that right now?
I feel like TSM did at different points during the split. I think you could argue 100 Thieves did. I don't really feel that way necessarily about C9 or TL. I feel like EG has just had good meta reads. I feel like they're not doing anything too crazy, but they're also not like we just play X. Other than maybe you could say Impact plays a ton of Renekton, just kind of, but like I don't know. I feel like they're fine.
Yeah, I was just curious because one, I think it's interesting if nobody's taking advantage of this, right? Because it kind of it's like an interesting aspect of some of the arguments for why this format would be good. But two, it just kind of made me think about when you were talking about the Reaper drafts caller, if 100T is trying any unique stuff because they feel like they can. I don't know. All right, Xanadu, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to say? Actually, sorry, one question for you. You listed off some good stuff, some good reasons, or a lot of reasons why 100T wasn't going to go. I'm curious why you think EG is going to go.
I'm just not seeing too many problems with them right now. I mean,
You just think they're
some
consistent.
questionable Jizuke plays, but I mean they've really managed to clean that. The team's managed to play around it fairly well, and I mean that's how they get those leads. I mean, overall they have a pretty consistent map right now.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much, Xanadu, for the call. And anything you want to shout out?
Critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy 14.
What is up with the? I feel like I'm going to have to play
Danny
Final
O'Dwyer.
Fantasy 14.
You like Danny O'Dwyer, right?
Yes.
I just watched his documentary on Final Fantasy 14 and like what happened. With
That was,
the
I
first
think, one of the
version
first ones he ever did for NoClip. Isn't that pretty old?
Yeah. It's pretty old. It's like 4 years ago.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I started playing the game anyways, just because like it was free, and I actually started playing. I didn't know much, like a ton of what happened, and then with all the WoW stuff, I've been following it, and like Yoshi P is the fucking shit. I love this guy. Get in there.
All right. Well, Square, if you want to pay us for that ad, I'd appreciate it. Thanks so much, Xanadu, for the call.
Yep. Have a good one.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like everyone's playing it, and now I need to.
Yep. You won't.
Maybe.
Also, read my Skype message, loser.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it. I'm checking it, and all right. Mark is going off to grab the next caller. Thank you to Mac to Ace for the 20 months, and I'm Elvis 4 as well for the 38 months. Oh my God, 38! It's crazy. All right.
I'm back.
Mark is back. Jim, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Montana.
Montana. If you told me you were the very first person to ever call us from Montana, I would believe you.
No, I remember a couple of months ago, I think last Worlds, someone from Montana called and talked about how TSM was going to be really successful at Worlds that year, and you guys all thought it was a great take. So I remember the one other Montana caller, so not many of us.
Was that you?
Nope, it was somebody else.
How do you Okay. Anyway, Jim, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Just up the street.
So my take is that Peter Dunn is the most successful import of the past off season.
Oh, boy.
The ability to like shape and articulate what he wants his team to be, get the right team members, and then also like come on shows like Hotline League and other places, talk about this, and then deliver on it on a way that's like he's always said he's going to have a fun team to watch, and that's what really matters, at least to me. That's why I tune in. And so I know, like, if I miss some games, if I want to see a VOD, always click on EG because it'll be fun. Also, you guys talked about people not experimenting, even if they have games to throw away. He bumped up an ADC from amateur all the way up to the LCS roster and has been knocking it out of the park ever since. So that's why I think, Peter Dunn needs some accolades. I was going to call and say this. I've been a fan of the guy for a while when he got on, but I just, didn't watch the show at the right time. I wasn't able to call in, but yeah, that's my thoughts. What do you guys think?
Did Peter leave? I haven't seen him in Twitch chat. Peter.
No,
I was talking to him all last call.
Twitch chat. We don't need him to get.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
notoriety.
Okay.
Just keep his head down.
Okay. To the caller's point, who is the best import this split or this year? Because it was technically he came over in spring. You have Perks. I don't know about that one right now. You have Alfari.
I think Abbedagge is up in that list of people.
Abbedagge might be your favorite right now.
Yeah.
Sword Art probably not. I mean, I actually think Sword Art's been fine this split, but not like $6 million.
Do we count
run
Fudge?
My whole team level? Fudge doesn't count because you didn't have to give up resources to bring him over, really, right? I think that's.
Did you have to give up resources to bring over Peter Dunn?
You had to convince him to leave Europe. Fudge has seen him imploded. Like, he's gonna come. You don't have to convince him of anything.
Okay, so no oceanic people can be part of this because the volcano exploded and Atlantis went under the water.
Exactly. I don't think if you have no other options, then you can say like, great decision to bring that guy over necessarily.
Okay.
And to Empire's point, yeah, Fudge was here on C9 last year.
Okay.
So I would say it's probably between Peter and Abbedagge, right? I mean, I know Peter's not a player and it makes the whole comparison kind of ridiculous anyways, but I think...
I mean, I like these conversations. I don't think it's that ridiculous. Like, it's a good... Because I think this kind of conversation illuminates a lot of other issues with the way the LCS and the team owners approach roster building, right? Like, if our last caller is correct and EG makes it to Worlds, that was the last caller, right? I'm not losing my mind. If the last caller is right and EG makes it to Worlds with this team that people just like joked about, you know what I mean? Like people have been shit talking Jizuke for so long, and Peter, I think, is probably one of the few people. You know, normally a player gets that much shit and they get sent out. Peter stood by him and kept him in. I don't know. I just love these conversations because they are the best moments because you get to talk about how much of a letdown Sword Art, Perks, and Alfari have been, and nobody wants to talk about that stuff because it feels shitty to say. But like, I don't think those players. I think there are great players that are fantastic in their roles, but I do not think that they have at all met the amount of resources that were invested in to bring them over here. And again, these guys were supposed to like run the kingdom in LCS, I feel like, when they showed up, and it just hasn't happened. So, yeah, sure, why not give it to Peter Dunn? All right.
Just to add something too, think of contracts and Svenskeren sharing time. How badly that has gone in a lot of other situations, not even on stage, but in the media and perception of people as a whole. I haven't really heard anything. I mean, people might say, like, why not just put in contracts or whatever after he comes in for one game and just pops off? But, I mean, they're going back and forth. I'm not really seeing any negativity from the players, like either the two junglers or any analysts or anything. And I think that that's not something that really happens, I guess, all the time. So that's another, plus for Peter.
I feel like if we're talking... I mean, so like people talk about Xerxes, he's been good. Gilhoto as well. I mean, obviously, I think Immortals has done better than people thought they would, especially spring to summer. Like that improvement is good.
For sure.
But I think with EG seeming like legit potential title threats, there's a little bit more. I don't know. I mean, also EG has a better lineup. I mean, no offense to the Immortals guys. I mean, but EG was clearly a bigger spender.
They spent way more money. I bet you it's twice as much, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, Revenge and Insanity and Raze and Destiny could not be that expensive. So I feel like, Gilhoto's working with a little bit less. But I also feel like, I don't know, I give a lot of credit to people who become like legit title threats. We'll see if EG end up being that way in best of fives. I expect they will, but where's I going with this? Oh,
AG LCS payroll. Now this is before this was from spring, but EG LCS payroll more than 3 times Immortals LCS payroll. So
yeah, I mean, so
to your point,
good for Gilhoto, good for Xerxes. Excuse me, but I still feel like both teams have improved their teams substantially from spring to summer. I think I'd still go with like, hey, we actually are going to win the championship kind of thing potentially. I mean, obviously we won't know this when we end up voting for different things, but
you know what's so sad? It is sad to me how few people know about Peter Dunn in the LCS. Like, I think when we had him on last time on Hotline League, a lot of people show up and say like, who is this guy or whatever. Like, my request to you, Mark, is the next time you're in a story meeting or whatever, please hype up Peter Dunn, because I actually think it is. I like this call. In fact, wait, where are we?
I don't know where Peter Dunn is right now, but this motherfucker has never was. We got Artemis on the desk instead of him. Why isn't Peter coming on?
Caller, Peter? I'm giving you the victory caller, the game field victory caller, because I like this take so much. I think people really, it's hard to remember now because there's been a bajillion games, but people were so down on EG. And I remember Peter Dunn saying that, like, you know, he always makes it to Worlds. Now, he still hasn't made it to Worlds, so who knows? Maybe they're going to go out in the very beginning of playoffs. I'm going to look like an idiot for believing so much in him. But, like, I think it is really remarkable what he's been able to do with this, especially with players that people derided, especially with a player who people, a player who came out of amateur, not academy, but amateur, and showed up in the summer and has done pretty decent. So, yeah, I'm on board with this take. I think it's great. I'm on board. I still don't know if I would choose Abbedagge or Peter Dunn. I think it really comes down to which one of those two teams makes it to Worlds, because I'm guessing that only one of the two will. But I like it.
I feel like Peter is pretty averse to like the kind of narrative hype building stuff, but Emily was talking about a hype video for him, and you know what? We're gonna do it in playoffs. We're gonna call him the mad scientist to go with the evil geniuses kind of thing, and I don't know. We'll make up a bunch of stupid shit to make him feel really awkward, and then we'll put him on the analyst desk and interview him after they 3-0 100 Thieves.
You guys heard Mark committed to this, so if it doesn't happen, Mark has failed you. Anyway, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the call. Is there anything you want to say before we go on to our next caller?
Shout out to Game Fuel and keep doing your good work, guys. And yeah, great to be on the call. Shout out to EG. Great to see him at Worlds.
Jim, do me a favor and shoot me a message on Discord so that I can get you info on how to get the Game Fuel stuff. We're going to hook you up with a case of Game Fuel, though.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one. Okay, on to the next caller. I'm trying to move Jim out of the room, but Discord is being weird. Please, there we go. Thank you, Jim. I don't know why it was being weird. Okay, all the dog, or is it Abbedagge? All the dog. Thank you for the prime. We're waiting on Mark to get back with that. Emily in the chat. Emily needs to put stuff in the Rift reaction show notes for LEC, if she hasn't already. Have you, Emily? God Usopp is here. God, where are you calling from?
Lexington, Kentucky.
Kentucky. What do you want to talk about on the show?
1 second. Let me pull it up. I can read it.
Do you sit in a very squeaky chair?
Yeah, I'm actually outside on my balcony right now.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So my take is this is the most competitive playoffs in LCS history. Any of the top 5 teams could win playoffs, and it's hard to say who's the clear favorites.
Agreed. I definitely agree with that. And I think I saw somebody retweeted this into my feed today where they were talking about how the same is true for LEC as well. And I was just talking about Rift Reaction, but I've been paying more attention to LEC this split because of doing that show with Emily, and we talk about that stuff. And I hear it's the same thing over there. It seems like it's just, for whatever reason, something's in the water this year where we've got a bunch of different teams that are all like, I don't know if I can say for certain this team is definitely going to Worlds for the LCS right now. What do you think, Mark?
I agree. I would question if it's. I mean, the reason I always like these ones because it's the most competitive ever. I'm trying to think. All the way back to season 3, spring. Can you mute? Yeah, you're good. Just until you talk again.
I muted him on my side. Sorry, continue.
Okay. So I would say, I would be curious if it was another time that it felt like there were 5 legitimate threats. I feel like we've had a lot of parity before. I specifically remember 2018 spring, right after franchising. I think like every team was within 1 game of each other, or at least like 8 of the teams were within 1 game of each other.
But towards the end of the year, you mean?
No, 2018 spring.
Oh, 2018 spring. Sorry.
Yeah, because he didn't say closest like Worlds race. He just said closest playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this year, in 2018 spring, it was 100 Thieves 12-6, Echo Fox 12-6, TSM 11-7, TL 11-7, and C9 11-7, Clutch Gaming 11-7. So it was 6 teams that were all pretty close together. I mean, you could argue that Clutch wasn't really a threat, which a lot of us did because we called them the line and all that meme shit. But then they ended up beating TSM in that really famous best of 5 with Hakuho Thresh and stuff like that. So like, I mean, I would say the same thing about TL right now. Like, I feel like TL is the line. They've only beaten the EG as the only top team they've beaten this entire split through 3 round robins. And they have 2 more top 5 team matchups to go. So like, I would put them in Clutch territory there, and that playoffs felt like anyone could kind of win.
I mean, it's definitely the most competitive race to Worlds for sure. Because I just have never been in a situation before where like I had no clue which teams were going. I mean, again, it's easy. You can say 3 of these 5 are almost certainly the ones that are going, but there's not one team I can point to for sure. I mean, maybe TSM, ironically. Like, I say that ironically because it's not like they have been. I mean, they've been in like the second position. They've not held this like commanding lead, but I kind of believe more in them in a best of 5 than in like EG or 100T. What were you gonna say?
I would say like I would agree that like maybe they're the favorite to make Worlds in any of the 3 positions, but I could also see a world where like they have a weird draft read. Huni loses some games in a best of 5 and gets exploited by like FBI or something, depending on where they meet, and then like they don't make. I don't know. I can see a world where they don't still make it.
It's not guaranteed, right? Exactly. It's not guaranteed. Like, I have more faith in them than in any of these other teams, but it's not guaranteed.
And even when there's been crazier upsets, like, you know, C9 not making Worlds last year after looking so fucking good for 3/4 of it, you know, even then, it didn't feel like, oh, there's five teams that could make it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's been really exciting. It's part of the reason why I've been a little bummed that like so many people seem to be detaching themselves from the league right now in terms of viewers and all that stuff, because I think the storylines are really exciting. It's just tough because the storylines that are really exciting, I think, are around newer teams. Like, look, I'm just going to be honest about it. Like, people didn't really give a shit about EG for the past year and a half. And so it's kind of tough then, I think, for part of the challenges. They are a very fascinating team with a very fascinating story, but it's July and like they've come out of nowhere to do this. And I think that's part of the reason why it's like just it's a weird time, I think, for LCS viewers. And it's a great time, but it's just, I think there's a lot of TSM fans out there that want to see TSM 3 games ahead of everybody else and just like Bjergsen dancing on stage behind the players whenever he's in draft, and it's just not been the way that it's been. But anyway, I'm super down for it.
Yeah, I feel like Emily made a good point too, where each of the teams has pretty different play styles. Like, I don't feel like any of the top 5 teams play that similarly. I would say like maybe TL 100 Thieves are the closest in play style, but even then, like, Close are so much more aggressive than Armeo and stuff, and like Core JJ roams a lot more than Huhi. So like, I don't really think there's anything that compares too directly, which is cool. That's not just like, I think that's one of the reasons you could argue it's closer, is that it's not just a bunch of teams all trying to do the same thing, and just some teams are better at it than others.
Imagine we get an EG 100T final.
Imagine the viewership.
I know, that's what I was saying. Like, that's what's so fascinating. And so what's weird is that in the LEC, they had record-breaking viewership, I believe, for their Rogue Mad Lions spring split finals.
Roasted for that tweet that you made.
I did get roasted for that tweet because I was like, because so much of the fandom is locked. Like, I stand by the meaning behind that tweet, which is like so much of the fandom in the LEC is locked up in Fnatic and G2. I have like YouTube viewership from interviews around these teams that I can show people that help demonstrate it. But like, let me ask you though, Mark. I was wrong with that tweet. Clearly, I was wrong because Rogue and Mad Lions then broke viewership. If we get 100T EG in the finals, do you think viewership will be really great?
I feel like it won't be bad. Well, I guess I should say like viewership is not great right now, anyways.
Yeah. So you don't think it's going to be like really bad, given
No, I think like relative to where it's been at summer, viewership will go up no matter what into finals.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a world where like we're watching finals and it's like barely it's like under 100K. I think it'll get over 100K again for finals no matter who. And I mean on main broadcast
Yeah,
over
on twitch.tv/LCS, you mean?
Yeah, and I would feel like, given that the co-streams will probably, between YouTube and the co-streams, they'll go up to hopefully around like 250 total. Like,
Yeah.
that would be good. And I feel like that might happen regardless of who's in the finals. Though obviously TSM will help.
I think all of us, I'll say the broadcast, but I also think my content and the co-streams and all that stuff, we need to do a better job of hyping up Hunter T and EG and making people care about these teams because I think they're worthy of our care.
Peter Dunn says he will do a rap video shit talking 100 Thieves if they're in the finals, and will that help with viewership?
Will he air it on Will you guys air it on broadcast if that's the case? You can commit on behalf of all of the producers and directors at the LCS on if that gets aired on the broadcast.
We can try our best.
Okay. I mean, they pitch you on stage singing Silver Scrapes. The bar is pretty goddamn low, all right?
True.
For musical performances at these things. All right. I think that's it. God, seems like we agree with you. Is there anything you want to say before we go on to our next caller?
Shout out to your sponsors, Alienware and Game Fuel. I like your content. And then shout out to my band, Urameshi. We're like an emo rock band. We just kind of started last year or two, so just check us out.
Nice. Love it. I'm
All right.
not a big emo rock band guy, but I feel like Mark is, so...
Indeed.
We're a really anime band, if you like that. Okay.
You're
See you
an
guys.
anime band?
Yeah, we go for the anime vibe. Urameshi. My name's God Usopp. That's where we live in.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. I'm sure Mark will check it out.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, catch you later. Okay. Thank you to Kiefertis for the Prime, Chintu, and the Slatherpuss as well. Slatherpuss coming up on 2 years. Drop the link, please. I don't think he could put the link in the Twitch chat, but maybe he can put the name of his band. They want the link of the band where they can hear the music. So.
I can try and find it. He said it was Urameshi?
Yeah, I think so. Is that an anime thing?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Because somebody says Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho in Twitch chat. So I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
KennyG is here. KennyG, speaking of musicians, KennyG is here. Love your music, KennyG. Where are you calling from?
Oh, yes, I'm a big KennyG myself, literally the guy. I'm calling from Dallas, Texas, though.
Dallas, Texas. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about how IMT is going to Worlds this year.
IMT is going to Worlds. Okay, well, I know one person in the Twitch chat's going to really like this take. Why are they going to Worlds?
Well, I think right now they look really good, and I also think throughout the year there's been this narrative that they have a ceiling and where they can't pass the current top 5 teams, and I really don't think that's true. I think their solo lanes who are rookies, they've started out looking good, and they just keep looking better. Insanity, maybe being like top 6 all year round, then getting better as his teammates also look better. And also their bot lane, they showed a lot of promise at Worlds when they went from OS. And as the LCS doesn't look super strong in the bot lane right now, I think as they power up, they could maybe be a top 3 team, or probably will be. And then Xerxes, formidable jungler, of course. And when you have winning lanes as a jungler, what can you do wrong?
So Gilhoto spammed some question marks at this take. Gilhoto, are you guys making Worlds?
I'm very curious why Gilhoto put question marks, because if the implication is he thinks this is a hot take, then... Oh, he says, I don't like to get jinxed, he says. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, then let me tell you that I think this call is whack, and I'm only doing this to not jinx you.
I would believe more in this take if playoffs were best of ones. Because I definitely agree that Immortals can take, and they've demonstrated they can take games off top teams. And a best of 5, I think it just gets really tough for them.
Hoto did say he thinks it's more likely that they make it to Worlds than 100 Thieves.
Gyotto says more likely that. See, people were saying it was a hot take to not have 100T in there. Gyotto's sitting here thinking Immortal's more likely to make it than 100T.
Also saying that when people were talking about EG, he was saying EG is one of the only teams that, like, when they're making plays, you can really see what they're going for. Even in like 100 Thieves might have better players, or like has great players, but they don't have like super motivated moves. But
yeah, okay. But back to Immortals.
Yeah. So I'll say, like, I've been really impressed by their improvement from spring to summer. Their split's weird because they seem really streaky. Like, they started summer really well, then kind of slumped, and then they went 3-0 again this weekend. And so, like, I have a hard time judging them completely because it's not even just that, like, they win or lose games, but they're kind of playing the same way the whole time. The way, like, you know, EG for a while was like, okay, they play really aggressive and a lot of their plays aren't working, into like, okay, they're playing really aggressive, but clearly they've gotten better as a team and now more things are working. And like, it's like week to week, the team just looks different. And like how they're executing stuff. Like
you never know what you're going to get kind of deal?
Yeah, for sure. Like for some weeks, like Xerxes looks like a fucking god. Like his Zen Zhao's popping off. His Gragas is nuts. You know, like there's a lot of these great games, you know, where you're like, holy shit, this team is awesome. And then there's like these like 0-3 weeks where I'm like, what is this team doing? You know, their bot lane looks fucking terrible sometimes. And then like this weekend, their bot lane looked fucking great. It's like Destiny on Hook Champs is like a god. Destiny not on Hook Champs is like they're sprinting it. You know, like they're a team that feels a little erratic in their performance. So like it makes me nervous in a best of 5 setting because it's like, you don't really. I feel like I'm not quite sure I can count on. Like, okay, Xerxes will generally probably be pretty good. I feel like that's the closest staple. Insanity and Revenge, I would say, are like pretty stable as well. But I also feel like are outclassed in a lot of the individual matchups that they'd be going up against in an attempt to make Worlds. And then their bot lane, like I said, is also pretty hit or miss. There are times where they look really good and times where they really don't. So. For me, it's like I would not predict a team that seems erratic to make a Worlds in a fairly long playoff best of 5 format. Let me see how many like best of 5s they would have to win if they finish 7th. Because I expect it's you know quite a bit.
I'm looking at the so as people have mentioned, they are tied for. Actually, is this website correct? It says Oh, they're tied for 4th, but it's a 3-way tie with TL and Cloud9. Okay.
Based off summer.
In the
they're
summer.
7th.
Yes. Sorry, that's what I was trying to find is their summer record.
They might get 6th. They can catch Dig and make 6th.
So I think what's interesting is if we were just talking about the top 5 teams by summer record, you have to include Immortals in that conversation because there's a 3-way tie for 4th. So it's funny because we talk about like the top 5 teams or whatever, and we don't include Immortals in it. But based off this weekend, statistically, looking at the summer record, they are a top 5 team.
Yeah, and I mean that's my point. Is not that they don't win. I mean, Gilhodo's talking about they have a 3-0, 0-3, some 1-2, 2-1s, 1, and it kind of fluctuates. But like there are streaks within that are bigger. Like they were, I think 7-2, maybe 7-4. And then they went on a streak where they, over their next 10 games, went 3-7. And so even though that might be like 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, that's still not great. Depending on how you, like where those lay in, there would be like a 4-game loss streak inside of a 1-2, where it'd be like they win the first game of this week, lose the next 2, next week starts, lose a game or 2, and then get a win. And so like, regardless of getting too into the weeds about how they won or lost, I just remember watching their games and be like, wow. And even to Gilhodo's point where he's talking about that CLG game, that was one where everyone felt like they should have lost. And it was, even though they won and it technically snapped, like it counts as a part of their current 4-game win streak. You know, like everyone hated, everyone was talking about that game. But then they looked good this week with their 3 wins, and that's why it's I don't know, they feel erratic to me in that sense. So if they do end up 7th, they have to win 1, 2, 3 best of 5s to qualify to make Worlds.
I think it's,
and they're in losers brackets. So they don't get any. If they're 7th, they're in losers bracket. They don't get any chances to mess up.
I think they're a little unlucky because this is not a great split. I feel like to be in their position where let's say it was a situation where you have TSM and Cloud9 who are at the top, and then just everyone else is in the pool. It's probably a lot easier for them to get that 3rd spot. But in the situation they're in where there's just so many teams that are all good, in quotation marks, we're trying to be positive here. It's I feel like it's a lot harder. Maybe there's more opportunity for the spots, but you need a lot more luck, I feel to go through in order to get a spot rather than just who's going to be the random 3rd team that makes it to Worlds. It's kind of my take on it.
I guess, but at the same time, realistically, with how TL are playing and how C9 are playing, if they don't improve, those are not that hard of a dub. Not impossible, I would still probably favor those 2 teams over Immortals, but it wouldn't be shocking if they lost. I think the problem is that above them, there's still EG, TSM, and 100 Thieves, even if TL and Cloud9 bust her out. So maybe I guess that is the point you're making, right? That there's just such a quantity of teams that could make it. Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, there's just there's way more competition, I think, than there normally is. For
right.
top
Whereas
team spot.
It's TSM and C9 who's gonna win the championship.
You know what it is? It's like the World Group situation. It's like the World Group situation where sometimes it's better to be in the group where there's 3 mediocre teams and then the one team that is definitely making it out because they're probably winning Worlds, an SKT or something like that. You're okay, well, SKT is going to beat everyone, so I just need to perform better than these 2 other things. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it here, whereas in those years where there's 1 or 2 teams, you're okay, they're definitely going to Worlds and they're way better than everybody else, so we just need to sneak in that 3rd spot. I feel it's kind of easier. I don't know, whatever. We can go around and around on this stuff, but you know what? One side tangent, because I know we're pressed on time, but I wanted to bring this up, Mark. I almost feel I want to give credit to every single LCS team because we're talking so much about Immortals right now. I think this was a good year for LCS teams. Unfortunately, TL had a tough time, but CLG, I think CLG and FlyQuest are the only teams I'm not going to give credit to because it's actually embarrassing. FlyQuest, I feel should be embarrassed that their main team was in such a shitty situation that they had to bring in the academy team, and the academy team does better. That's a failed year in my opinion. And CLG failed, but everybody else I think made really great strides. Immortals doing really well with their roster. Dig did really well for a while. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with the performance of most of our LCS teams when you're only looking at domestic play this year, especially given how many teams built new rosters.
I feel this is a can of worms. I feel for the non-import crazy teams, this was a pretty good year. I feel normally in the LCS, 5 through 10 is kind of hey, fuck it, whatever. They don't realistically have a chance. And but they're still comprised of kind of veterans who you've seen forever. No offense to players. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a name, like an Apollo or something, where you've seen them a bunch of times and you know that they're decent, and on a team where they're the 2nd or 3rd option, they can be fine. But then they're combined with 3 other, basically CLG. This is what we talked about at the start of the year, if you remember. CLG felt. I
remember because I always talked about that caller who said that CLG was the line.
Well, also that CLG just built their roster the way teams built their roster 3 years ago or 2 years ago. It was an outdated way of building rosters. Most of the other teams who kind of went for the quote-unquote budget route, I feel generally hit their goals. Even FlyQuest, who you could say failed, I at least appreciate the players that they brought in and tried to make it work with. Even if you can criticize some of their approach and methodology. Same with Dignitas, some of those, individual roster moves and how they they approached it. Whatever. There's some criticism you can levy, but I at least like understood what they were going for. For the top teams, I actually think you can give them some criticism. The teams that balled out super hard and are now struggling with almost a 50% win rate, like C9 and TL, you know, and some of those like huge spends, I think you could maybe criticize that they're not getting more of a performance rate.
Yeah, I give less Okay, fair point. I give less criticism to TL because it sounds like Alphari had like crazy personal stuff that happened, and then Santorin has literal health issues, and they ironically, given their brand or like what people think, they balled out way less than C9 and TSM during the off season, right? So like that just seems like, I don't know. It's tougher for me to criticize. You think that they deserve more criticism?
No, I just mean like to messaging around it, Jat quitting, and like all the other things that kind of came together around like Alphari and Santorin having issues seems like it could have been handled better.
Yeah, the messaging could have been handled better, but I don't like from a performance standpoint, I don't fault them for how they're doing.
Well, I'm saying like not just public messaging, but like the miscommunication that happened internally at the team to cause such friction between coaching staff and Alphari.
Gotcha.
You know, because even Steve in the public messaging was saying like, "Hey, we didn't really do a good job with how we handled Alphari's problem."
But he was saying even then they should like one of their takeaways was Alphari should have never played that first game.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying that they didn't do a good job because of that. Like they would have had an issue outside of their control no matter what. And I don't fault them for needing to bench Alphari necessarily, because even Alphari said like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have played. But because they didn't handle it well, they deserve criticism.
Oh, because Jenkins came in like last minute on the second day, you're saying, and like had they handled it better, Jenkins could have been starting from the first day.
Alphari, it sounds like they gave him some bullshit reasons. Like Jat and Alphari left a meeting with two different ideas of how that meeting went. You know, like that's not good management, you know? So I think they deserve some criticism. I think you can talk about Cloud9. We don't even fucking know still why Sven was benched and like what was going on there, but clearly they're struggling.
Yeah.
So like I think some of those teams you can talk about maybe you know, for what are supposed to be our top teams, not as clean as like, hey, Immortals is popping off and like, hey, TL balled out, but it fucking worked and look at them dominate kind of thing.
Yeah. All right, fuck it. This is spicy, but I'll just say it. Part of me wants it to be 100T and EG finals. Because part of me wants this offseason for all the team owners to just finally say, okay, we're done spending millions and millions of dollars to import players from other regions. Like, and I know Abbedagge is like a player that they probably spent a decent amount to bring over, but you and I have discussed on previous episodes, like that feels a little different when you're bringing him in halfway through the split or whatever. Like I am down for us to stop spending as much money on players because it doesn't necessarily feel like most of the time they end up working out. You know, like at one point in time I asked Tim if he could do a Run It episode on like the drop off of players when they come to North America and how quickly they drop off, and I think it just became like it's too much of a statistical nightmare to try to do it in a good enough way for what Run It is, which is like a 4 to 6 minute show. But I don't know. I'm just like I'm happy these players are here. I'm not saying like wow Perk should never, but I just mean like the strategy employed I think is.
To be clear, you're not anti-import in general, but like when it's instead of being like Alphari for 1 or 2 mil, whatever it was, we're talking like 5 mil buyout plus X amount million a year.
Yeah, it creates multiple problems. One is it creates, I think, misleading expectations about what our region should be. So it creates an increased intensity and frustration when we perform poorly, right? Like, I think if we go to Worlds and it's not like we're doing these extreme kind of like what is like breaking the benchmark type things, like spending on all these players like Perks, etc. I think people have hopefully more realistic expectations for what we can accomplish, and it's not the rest of the world laughing at us while we're like pillaging their rosters for the best talent and bringing them over here and paying them a ton of money. So I think that's an issue. And then I think it also is just like I don't think it's actually that helpful. You know what I mean? So like I don't anti-import or whatever. I am anti-lifting the import rules we've discussed multiple times before. But like, I do think. Oh, I guess the other issue I was going to say is like we're spending too much money. The league cannot sustain this. Teams cannot make back the amount of money that they are spending in some cases on these rosters. Like nobody should be spending. When you put in all the staff and all that stuff, what, $7 million on academy and LCS and coaching and all that stuff. I mean, who knows? So I don't know. I'm ready for us to pull back and
against
start
overpaying,
doing
not against imports, against overpaying.
Yeah, overpaying, and I think also just like there's not enough. I appreciate the teams that did not feel like they could spend or were willing to spend as much money as the big three did this offseason and went for like who is the next Danny? Who is the next Olive? Who are these players that I think can be the foundation of our league for the next 5 to 6 years versus like players who have been playing for 5 to 6 years and don't seem to be competing the way that they did previously.
Jojo Pune and Tomio, according to Empire. Jojo Pune's getting hyped like a motherfucker. Then you got General Sniper coming in a couple years. 3, I guess, if he's 14 now.
Anyway, we've gone way off topic, KennyG. I'm so sorry. Are you still here?
I am. It's all good. Enjoyed hearing you talk.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to say before we go on to the next before we take a quick break?
Of course, just some shout outs to Alienware and Game Fuel. I also I'm a Smash player, so I want to give a shout out to all the LCS orgs who are participating in Smash Bros. I think it's about 7 of them. So
7 of them
it's really nice. Thank you.
That's actually more than I would have thought. You said 7 of them are competing in Smash?
Yeah, there's some kind of participation. It's really nice.
TLEG, is EG still in it?
They did some college stuff recently.
Okay.
I need to watch
Golden Guardians.
I need to watch the
TSM,
finals.
COG,
Mango still.
Yeah.
There's another one. Thing to toss.
Anyway, thank you, Kenny, for the call. We'll catch you next time.
All right. See ya. Bye.
All right. We're going to take a quick break to talk about Game Fuel. Thank you so much, Mountain Dew Game Fuel, for sponsoring the show. Look, sometimes people accidentally say G Fuel. Not G Fuel, okay? This is a superior product. It's very good. Mountain Dew Game Fuel, all right? This is the good stuff right here. You want to get it by going to gamefuel.com/Travis. I'll type the command in the chat. But there's also...
G Fuel sponsors Keemstar.
I'm not getting into this right now.
Game Fuel sponsors good people like Travis Gafford.
I'm not... That's Mark picking that fight, not me. But Mountain Dew Game Fuel, a delicious product that I love, and I've talked about this before, and you guys have heard the story about how like I tried it as part of like a random one-off sponsorship for like a Final Fantasy VII thing I did on Twitch, and I loved it so much that we literally spent a year hounding them to sponsor me and Hotline League. So they did, and I just have. It's been great working with them. I hope they renew for next year. I hope you guys have shared your love of them sponsoring this show, and they perceive that. But either way, you can go to you can do !Game Fuel in the chat if you want to get a link over there. You can use code Travis at checkout to save 5% on your order. And by the way, if it's not available in your state in the U.S. here, it's available in almost all of them now, I think. But you can also, there's an Amazon link that will allow you to purchase it as well. But I'm actually kind of curious. In fact, is it over yet? I know it was supposed to last only about 6 months. Yeah, it looks like their Victory Pass. Oh, their Victory Pass is still going. I'm curious. I'd love to hear from folks who have climbed up the Victory Pass because they have like a Battle Pass style thing. I've talked about this previously as well, where when you order stuff off of their website, you order like a case or something like that, you get these things unlocked, discounts and mouse pads, bottles and Twitch bits, etc., etc. But I'd love to actually hear from people and see how far you guys have climbed up the Battle Pass level, the Victory Pass level. So Either way, thank you so much to Game Fuel for sponsoring the show. Thank you guys. And by the way, when you do order them, it's actually really helpful when you guys. I've seen a lot of people, and I want to thank everybody for tweeting at Game Fuel and letting them know, like, oh, I got this case of Game Fuel, and having a picture of it. That stuff is really helpful. So thank you so much to everybody who appreciates Game Fuel and shows it to them. I really do appreciate that. All right, on to the final caller. Where are we? Travis, what would my Game Fuel flavor be? I don't know. I'm going to keep that as a secret because maybe someday we will do that. Travis flavor incoming like courage. I think it. I don't know. I'm trying. All right. We'll see. Is the big we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Thank you for the 800 bits, Blaine Blasphemy. Really appreciate it. That's very nice of you. Thank you, Maury Wakes, for the raid and the 18 months. Ponsco Burr for the prime. I really appreciate all the support, everybody. Noneyabiz is here. Noneyabiz, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia. I think our second Philly caller tonight. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My topic was that Abbedagge is ascension to the top of NA is really overrated. And it's more about 100 Thieves as a team than it is him himself. And within a year or so, he's going to fall into being a middle-tier mid laner, just like he was in LEC. And how this seems to always happen with imports, where they come in and they smurf on everybody immediately, and then they just fall into the middle-tier ranks where they're not good, but they're not bad either.
I don't think that they always come in and smurf on everybody. Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry. I was going to say, I feel like I accidentally turned this into the Fuck 100 Thieves episode without meaning to.
Don't.
Everyone.
Oh, now that you've pointed it out, people are going to say that we're biased against 100T.
I just picked random takes, and then I didn't know. Dude, I didn't know that Gil Hoto and Peter Dunn would just be slamming 100 Thieves in the comments for the whole time that we're talking about the top 5 teams in the LCS. I didn't know.
All right, Mark. Well, here's your chance to return this.
They had a coalition of anti.
Tell the caller why it is. It's because what it is. There's no 100T people that ever show up in our chat. They don't care about the show, so there's no way for them
they show us up all the time. What?
Get defended. Well, where is he tonight to defend his honor?
If he was here, they wouldn't be running their mouths. Bet you that.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, 100T is so good." Okay, Mark. Here's our chance to save us from people saying we're 100T haters. Tell the caller why he's wrong. Why is Abbedagge going to always be amazing, and why is he the best player ever?
He's a treasure and a gift.
MVP candidate?
He is the MVP for now and forever, for all time, always. It's the sacred timeline on the
anyway,
time variance authority. And
no. Anyway. What do you think of Abbedagge? Because you've been, I think, very supportive of him.
I think he's really good. I feel like him and a lot of the members of 100 Thieves' performance has dropped a little bit in recent weeks. I feel like Huhi and FBI have lost some lanes when previously I felt like they never lost some lanes. Some of it was jungler interference. Some of it was just there's Huhi getting hooked. I feel like they are picking Tom Kench bot and it looks like shit. There's some of these things going on with them that's not Abbedagge related for the somewhat downturn. And part of it is Abbedagge. I don't think he's been quite as good as he was at the start of the split. McCullough got nerfed, and it feels like I haven't seen him pop off on some of the other melee assassin champions. He tried the Yasuo game. That didn't look great. So I definitely don't think he's out of criticism, but I also feel like this is a weird split for mid laners where a lot of them do not look good. Perks has not looked good. Jensen has not looked particularly good. I think there's a case to make that is a Blaze all above some of these imports? I feel like Jizuke is probably, you could say, along with Abbedagge, the most impactful mid laners in the LCS right now.
Yeah, who do you think are top 3? Can you give a top 3, you think?
Abbedagge and Jizuke easily 1 and 2 with some debate about where you want to place them. I feel like PoE at 3 is maybe the answer, but I'm honestly not happy about it. But I also don't know who you would put over him.
A Blaze Olive.
I mean, so like a Blaze Olive is good. He dies a lot. Like people talk about that Tom Kench game, the one that he played this weekend.
Yeah.
The problem was that he just like went in when he shouldn't have and killed himself. And that's like his problem in general on most champions is like his laning phase is actually decent. He can make plays to get your team leads and kind of win games. He'll win you some games, but he'll also do some troll shit, which is scary for a mid laner. I mean, we talked about that with like Jizuke. I think in some ways you could say a Blaze Olive is like a bit of a Jizuke light, like very different champion pools and strengths. But in terms of like
Playstyle and problems.
yeah, like some of like that coin flippiness that people talk about with Jizuke for a while, you could say probably it applies to a Blaze Olive as well. But I also feel like there's like Golden Guardians is not a great team. There's teams that have more assistance around them than a Blaze Olive gets. So like if someone made the case for Blaze Olive third, like honestly I wouldn't shit on them for doing it. I probably am not going to right now unless he pops off really hard this last weekend. I'll still lean a little bit towards PoE, but like PoE plays control mages, generally doesn't have a great laning phase. Like it's fine. He's playing weaker matchups that aren't going to dominate lane anyways. But then he just kind of scales and then he plays those pretty well. And it doesn't feel like he impacts the game the way that people who are playing the more aggressive champions currently can and do.
Yeah. Do you think he's gonna suck next year and he's overrated? Because if you think like, wow, Jensen and Perks and all these guys are underperforming, then there's a chance he only looks good in a world where like the good mid laners in the LCS are just not playing well.
There's totally a realm of possibility where Abbedagge gets first team All Pro this split, and without changing his individual level of performance next year, ends up off the All Pro ballot. Like where Perks pops off, Jensen looks great. I don't know, Bjergsen unretires.
We import Faker.
PoE is great still. Jizuke is great still, and like suddenly Abbedagge is fifth. Like that could very easily happen, but I don't think that's really a slight at Abbedagge just because the other people, and honestly, a decent mid pool of players step up again.
Yeah, kind of unfair to like cheat him out of it by just being like. So that's my take, caller. How dare you? You're trying to take away this man's accomplishments just because other people are sucking right now. So nobody can ever look good in a world where like Jensen and these guys
the one-eyed man rules in the Valley of the Blind or something. Isn't that a saying? In the Valley of the Blind, the one-eyed man is king, something like that.
Yeah. Yes, it is that, but I don't know if that's applicable here, Mark.
It's also a backhanded compliment to Abbedagge.
Nonya, do you have any defense for the terrible things that you have said against Abbedagge that Mark has refuted?
Personally, like with Abbedagge, like I think he's like a good mid laner, like maybe even great, right? And I actually think 100 Thieves are going to make Worlds this year. Like I think it's pretty realistic that they do. But I just think like once that new like quote unquote new car smell wears off that like imports have when they first come. I don't know if it's like people don't have tape on them to put it in like a sports reference because like they do. You could just watch LEC games and things like that. But I just think maybe once they get used to playing against him more often, he's not going to do as well. He's going to start to fall down.
Well, I think the forge of NA does not burn as hot as some of the.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like what
regions.
happens is playing on NA servers is what happens to them.
Yeah. Against NA players. Like we just don't, it's not as competitive here, so you don't get as good. So. All right. Noneyabiz.
Reducto.
You might be right. Mark is role-playing as a wizard right now, so we have to wrap up the show because he's losing it. Is there anything you want to shout out, Nonya, here at the end of the call?
Yeah, I want to shout out Mississippi State Esports and more importantly, the league side of it. Go Bulldogs, I guess.
Nice. Go Bulldogs. Thank you so much for the call. All right. That is the show. Please no one leave the stream. I need you all here after the show. Mark, what do you got for us? What do you want to shout out? What?
I'm just going to cast spells at you until I'm ready to go.
What else did you get a robe and a wizard hat when you were at Hogwarts
No
as well?
robe. We got like a lot of snacks and treats and like pictures and cute stuff.
Cute stuff.
Less
I
robe.
think cute stuff, I think Mark Zimmerman.
More memorabilia than merch,
Yeah.
or like clothing.
Did you buy all the photos from all the rides?
No, I screenshotted a bunch of them. There's some pretty funny ones of me. I make weird faces on
Like
rides.
you held your phone up and took a picture of the monitor?
They also send it to your phone if you have the app, which
And
you
you
can then buy off.
Do they watermark it? Because otherwise, yeah, why
it's
don't you just
watermarked.
screenshot?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
watermarked.
All right. Do you have anything else, or is
No.
this okay? Well, I have a big interview with Ender that is coming out possibly tomorrow. It's the first interview I think I've done in person in like a year and a half or something. So that's pretty cool. Everyone can see how much weight I've gained during the pandemic. And then
Seated behind a desk.
Listen to we did it in the living room. I said it's a in-person interview, so we were.
But I mean, like you could still sit at the table or something, you know.
You've been in my apartment. There's nothing to hide behind.
Get a. I have one of those like fold-out tables.
The
for
card tables.
Or for like breakfast in bed. You know?
Like the TV. Like fuck, why am I forgetting?
Kind of like
the
a
name
TV
of it?
tray dinner, but classier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, you should ask to borrow that and just put it over you. Hide
the belly.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's me. I'm just sitting here at this little meal table.
Don't mind me, everybody.
I've got that going on. The Ender interview coming out. It was a bit of a quiet weekend for interviews. I got declined a lot because a lot of teams were losing. But there's that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to promote. Maybe that's it. I'm working on some cool stuff. We might have a new sponsor for Hotline League next week that will run for a little bit. No promises, but if we get everything done in time. And I think it's a pretty wholesome sponsor, so I'm pretty excited about it. So I haven't even told Mark. Mark, did I tell you about it? I don't think I told you about it.
I think you mentioned it, but I don't remember.
Maybe it was a while ago, yeah.
Either one of our walks. Yeah.
We will talk about that soon. Anyway, this has been the show. Thanks, everyone. You can listen to it. We air every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Please stop asking me when we air, because I swear to God,
you should say it at the start. Welcome back to Hotline League, coming to you live at 7 p.m. PST. Think about that for an intro instead of your whammy, bammy, zammy.
Thanks, everyone.